Oh, today is a very, very, very special day. I am Dr. Charles Cole III, but I am really, really honored about what's about to happen. We have produced a new show with this other executive producer that's right next to me. This is the one and only J Artist, right? I think you all know me, but this is her 5-part series, and I want to give her an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about it and why we started it. But first, we need all of you to go out and share this with your people. All right. We're not paying for advertisement or whatever the case is. So word of mouth is what we need. But we need you to share with your people because this is something for Black parents to help you with everything that's happening. So go share it. Go ahead, Jay. Who are you? And why do we do this?
Yeah, thank you so much, Charles. I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you giving me this platform. This is not an area that I usually get involved in at all. Anyone who knows me, anyone who's ever worked with me, I am definitely someone that stays behind the scenes. But actually, this is actually one of the reasons why I think the title is so fitting. It's for me as well as for other parents. Who I am is I'm a mother, I am a wife, I'm a sister. I am a Black woman who has been trying to bring all of her full self to the year 2020 and before then, knowing that before anyone else sees anything else of me or about me, they see me as Black. And that has weighed on my heart, especially as I have built a career off of working with parents and built a career off of building agency and helping parents organize and speak on behalf of their children. And so it was just on my heart to be like, you know what, we got to stop having these conversations where we're asking for permission to show up for our kids. And when we're asking for permission to be at the table, we need to start creating our own tables. We need to start having our own community conversations again, because we've had them in the past. And so it just inspired me to really have an opportunity to get a platform where I could speak to all the parents that I've worked with over the years and speak to parents that I have not worked with, and be able to tell you and show you that, there's power in our children, there's power in our stories, and we can tell those without having to be advised and given, talking points or told not to say this or to say that, especially now. Like, now is not the time for us to be muted. And so I wanted to join with Charles Cole on this series. We named it Parents Stop Asking for Permission because it's about building agency and power, collective power, and also action around what we're experiencing right now as parents, whether it be in our school systems, whether it be what we're experiencing at home. Unemployment is on the rise, all the different things that we experience as we show up as Black people. Let's talk about it, and let's find solutions, and let's find opportunities to work together. And that's what this is about. So I thank you, Charles. I appreciate you.
Oh, no, I appreciate you. And I think that, we named it Parents Stop Asking for Permission because, I've been seeing for too long, Black parents have been shamed about the decisions that they make and doing what's best for their kids, or being asked to sacrifice their kids to systems that don't necessarily love them. Now, I want to be clear. Charles isn't in love with any system because I don't think any of them are good enough for our baby. So I think that the least we could do is give parents the information that they need and allow them the space to do what they need to do. But right. This is Jay's space. So Jay is a wine connoisseur. She made me have wine ready.
Oh yeah.
My red blend. That's not wine in her hand, but it's all good.
This is a white sangria. Okay, I got a lot going on right now, but I always try to keep something in stock, which is hard because my husband and I both like wine a lot. So this COVID-19 has been amazing for us. I think the only arguments we've had is about who's been drinking the most wine. So
all good, man. As long as y'all are together, and listen, like I said, I don't have kids. But Jay is somebody that I've been seeing do work behind the scenes for forever, for a really long time. And a lot of people don't know that she does a lot of this work, and she's launching some amazing stuff. You'll hear more about that. But she's been behind a lot of campaigns and a lot of things that help free our parents. And so I just wanted to honor that. And I wanted to show support more than a hashtag of saying support Black women or whatnot. Jay, if there's anything else I can do, whether it's the platform, it's sowing a seed in you, is booking you or whatever the case is, I'll do it. I think love is an action, and I think you showed our community so much love that it was time for us to show you something back.
Yeah,
And
man, I appreciate that.
you've always had my back, and you came out swinging on the first episode. Let me tell you why. So she was able to do something that not a lot of people are able to do. Some call him the Oracle. Some call him Pop. Some call him their academic godfather. And some are lucky enough just to be able to call him friend. But we've been able to pull in the incomparable Dr. Howard Fuller. And I want to just talk him up a little bit before we bring him on, because he's waiting. But he probably interrupt us if he was on right now, because he don't like people talking him up. Dr. Fuller has been there for me in more ways than one. When I felt alone in this work, or tired or frustrated, or he seen me ready to fight, and not just the fight. You know how people say fight on like TV or on the radio, and they mean like, no, like
no, Charles, we know when you say that, you don't mean that.
Like, ready to fight, right? He's just been there, and he's just been amazing, man. And I can always count on him. And so, you know, even when I was deciding to become a doctor, he was just instrumental in when I was making that decision, because I didn't really want to do it at first. And so, what is it that you want to say about Dr. Fuller before we bring him on? Let's get this man his flowers while he can, why he's here to get them.
Absolutely. So first of all, this man's gonna outlive all of us. So that's just crazy enough as it is. But I mean, you said it all. I met Dr. Fuller. It's been 10 years ago now that I met Dr. Fuller at an event in Jersey. And what is so amazing about this man is that he has such a national presence, but at the same time, you really see him shine and light up when he gets around students and when he gets around parents. And he just really, that's where he does his best work, when he's just able to have one-on-ones and talk with people and let them know how we really show up in these spaces. I mean, he's lived his entire life. He has a legacy for the work that we're talking about right now. And at the same time, he's just got such a humble soul and always willing to give and share with others. I've had the privilege over the last year to really get to know him, literally driving in the car with him, fussing about what we're going to do as we navigate through helping out with the demonstrations for the presidential debate. And it's been a lot of fun just to get to know him more, and super excited to have him on. I really, really appreciate him taking this time to join us too.
Awesome, man. And so, y'all, we also are on technology. There's a lot of wild stuff happening in technology streets right now. So if somebody go out or got a buffer or whatever, it's all good. Stay with us. We'll come back. It's all good. But with no further ado, I'd like to welcome in the one and the only, my dear friend, Dr. Howard Fuller. How you doing, Dr. Fuller?
Hey, man. First of all, I was trying to figure out who y'all are talking about. Like, y'all got the wrong guest. No, but seriously, both of y'all know how I feel about each one of you all. And it's really like an honor and a privilege for me to be on Jay's show and to reconnect with you, Charles, and to give you Dr. Cole, I'm sorry. And also to, again, give you a shout out for, Howard's University, which we did earlier in the year, which was really tremendous fun. And so now to be on Jay's show is even better. And so again, I thank both of you for making it possible for me to spend a little time with you.
Man, well, we just really appreciate you, man. And, one of the things that we wanted to just really converse about is our theme is around parents stop asking for permission. Like, you live that. You are somebody who has built the agency of parents and talked about the self-determination of Black folks for a long time. So I want to make sure that we jump into this conversation in the right way. So Jay, as this being all about you and your show, why don't you start us with, why do you support choice in education, Jay?
Yeah, so the first thing about that, Charles, and Dr. Fuller, you and I know we've had conversations about this. It's funny to even have to say, why do you support parent choice in education? Because everybody should have a choice, right? It's not a matter of supporting it. It's just it should be a civil right. It is a civil right for you to have choice. For me, I support parent choice because being Black in this country, I understand very clearly how I show up. And when I think about education specifically, it is something that my people and my ancestors had to fight for. It's not something that was just given to us. And even when it was given to us or has been given to us, it hasn't been given to us in the quality that we deserve and expect. So for me, parent choice is about making sure that I have options and that my children have options to be the brilliant people that they are. I think too often we are told that we are just descendants of slaves. And we are told that, you see so much when we read statistics and polls. The statistics and polls about Black people are always, or not always, but often negative. And that's just not the reality that I live in. That's not the reality that I'm teaching my children at all. I teach my children that they're brilliant, that they're excellent. And so for me, parent choice is about, if I don't see that in the schools and the education that I have access to, then I'm going to demand and choose to find it in another way to make sure that they're able to, excel to their best selves.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up, man. Dr. Fuller, you've done this for a long time, brother. Like, what pulled you in? I mean, well, people can read the book. It's an amazing book. It's detailed in there. But for the folks that haven't read your book, why did you decide to dedicate so much of your life to the struggle for education for Black folks?
Yeah, first of all, I'm glad you chose the term parent choice instead of school choice. Like, I never got in this battle to give schools choices. I always got in it to make sure that low-income and working class families, particularly Black families, could have choice. And so I want to talk about it, real quickly in two ways. First of all, historically, any conscious Black person, even a relatively conscious Black person, would know that if we only have one option for anything in America, we are in deep trouble. So when you read a book like The One Best System by Tayac, you know that there's always been a struggle in this country around the issue of a single system of education. And for Black people, though, again, if you read the book we've talked about many times, James Anderson's book, Education of Blacks in the South, 1876 to 1935, you really get an understanding of what happened when Black people came out of slavery, that we were liberated, but we were not free. And so one of the things that we bought into was the idea that education was the critical factor for us becoming free. And so when that happened, we came out of slavery. Actually, we had started schools during slavery, if you actually read the history. But when we came out of slavery and we wanted to begin to get into schooling or the establishing of schools, it became very clear, particularly as you read the history of the Freedmen's Bureau, that Black people were at the forefront of establishing the public education system in the South as like a means for us to get an education. But at the same time, what happened is that when the white folks got together, particularly I think it was the Compromise of 1877, somewhere around in there, and made the decision to reinstall the white people that ostensibly the Civil War had been fought to get out of power, they took those public schools that Black people had helped start and said, you can't go to these anymore. So then what Black people were forced to do was to form our own schools. And so we were in a situation where we had to pay taxes for schools that we were not allowed to go to, and we had to create our own schools. So anybody who's talking about parent choice is some new thing for Black people is historically ignorant. And the other thing that's very clear is that parent choice has always been widespread in this country unless you're poor. So this idea of parents choosing, and this pandemic stuff is bringing it once again to the head, because people with money are talking about forming pandemic pods, and they're talking about all kinds of different ways to make sure that they can choose the best educational environments for their children. So from a historical standpoint, parent choice has been something that's been important to Black people coming out of slavery. The second point I want to make, and to shorten this, but the person who doesn't get enough credit for the modern day, quote, parent choice movement is a Black woman named Annette Polly Williams. Because it was Polly Williams back in 1987 and 88 who had the courage in Milwaukee as a Black Democrat to support vouchers. Because Polly's idea was we need to give low-income parents the ability to choose better schools for their children. But what Polly also was talking about, and I know because I was there with her, was she talked about the ability of Black people to create schools. The idea was that we need to be able to create some schools to serve our children. But over the overall umbrella of it, and I'll stop here, is that each one of us on this call, and anybody who's looking at us or hearing us, knows that if you got money in America, you got choice. Because if schools don't work for your kids, you're either going to move to communities where they do work, you're going to put your children in private schools, or you're going to get the most expensive tutoring on the planet. The people who don't have those options are low income and working class Black and brown families who can't move or who can't just take their kids out and put them in private schools without some type of governmental support, or they don't have the ability to pay for the most expensive tutoring on the planet. So in my opinion, the whole discussion around parent choice is covered with hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
Because people who use it every single day would never give it up for their own children, don't want our families and our children to have it.
That's what's up, man. I think that I tend to agree with you, and I look at it as somebody, I'm helping lead a pack in Oakland, and that's interesting. That's a whole nother episode. And
Yes, it is.
and we just got interviewed, and the person called me pro charter, and I said, wait, hold on. Like, the interviewer was trying to do this pit thing, and I was like, actually, I only went to traditional schools, right? I said, I don't love any system, right? I love in a system where there are schools in my city where less than 10% of the Black kids in that school can read on grade level. Less than 20 across the city, right? And like, the least that we can do is give people information and then the opportunity to be able to choose what's best for their kids, especially if some of our schools have no way of like mitigating, and they become jail factories, right? And like, I'm somebody, because they like when you don't hate charters, you get this thing, right? Like, people like to come at you in a certain type of way. And my thing is, look, man, my mama wanted me to go to Berkeley High. She tried to get the interdistrict transfer. She got denied. Both my parents had a record. My mother had been to jail before. They made it very clear that if she got caught using somebody else's address to put me in a different school, that she would go back to jail. This is what we talking about right here. Mm-hmm. We got a president, man, that's lying to people about one of the most deadly viruses that we've seen in modern day times. But my mama can go to jail for trying to give me the type of education that I needed, right? And so that's why I support parent choice, because if my freedom and liberation is dependent on racist people no longer being racist, then kill me now. Like, kill me. Like, if I can have no control, right? If there's nothing that I can do, I just gotta depend on the kindness of other people's hearts. I don't want to play in that game. And I think that I was blessed to live in 4 shelters growing up, because I saw human nature up close and personal early on. Ain't nobody coming to save you. Ain't nobody coming to save us. Now, it's a lot of people that like me now because I talk and I write pretty. You know what I mean? There's a doctor behind the name. But I was a dungy kid with jeans that didn't fit that I got out of the bin at Salvation Army, right? And wasn't nobody thinking about me then. And for damn sure, a lot of these white folks that go to nice, good schools did not want me sitting next to their kids. So now you want to dictate where my mom or where somebody else's mom sends their kids. I'm gonna fight for Black people regardless of what you choose. You choose private, traditional, charter, homeschool. I don't care. You know why? Because that ain't my business. That ain't my business, right? So that's why this first episode is called Parents Stop Asking Permission for How to Educate Our Kids. Because,
you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to jump in there, Charles, because there's 2 points that you brought up that we need to just debunk the myth. First, Black people are not a monolith. No one is a monolith, right? Like, we don't just exist in one form. We have gotten to a point in this country where titles rule us. Like, if you have to have a title and you got to have a set that you represent, right? Like, you can't just be both and. You have to be either or. And so I am so tired as well of having this conversation about, because I support charter schools, I don't support traditional public schools. My kids go to both. And I can tell you, my experiences that have been good or bad in both of them. But the thing is that the fact that people try to make it seem like you have to pick a side, and they only do it to those of us who don't have the power to choose, as we talked about. The other thing that I was just listening to you say is that, even when we do have choice, right? So I'm blessed and privileged to be able to say that I do have the options, right? Like we just moved recently. I could move. And one of the reasons why we did move was because we wanted better future options for our daughters right now. I mean, they're in an elementary charter school, but that's not to say that's going to be around for them in the future. But the other problem that we're running into is that we're in a new neighborhood now where we're one of few. So even when you have choice as a Black parent and you decide, I want to send my child off to this private school, or you want to send my child off to a suburb, you want to move to the suburb, then you have to deal with that compounding tokenism, right? Where they're the only ones there. And, I lived that growing up. I went to a traditional public school, but, I had those conversations about why when you get in the water, your hair shrinks up, and, why is your skin white? And all those little silly things that, like, if you were educated, you would know that. And I'm not here to try to, dull my supernova to make you feel better. But, ultimately I got to do that in order for people to feel comfortable being around me because I'm Black. So I just wanted to lift those two things up, because it's like, we got to stop thinking and talking as though it's either or, right? We are not a monolith. Black people, we got Black people that are Democrats. We got Black people that are Republicans. We got, poor moms and rich moms sending their kids to charter schools. We got poor moms and rich moms trying to navigate through a public education system. It's insane to me. And I think too many times, especially when we talk about Black people, they just try to filter us and pigeonhole us into one type of Black community. I'm still trying to figure out what that community is, because, half the time when I see it on TV, it don't necessarily look like the Michelle Obamas and the Barack Obamas that are Black. What I mean? It don't look like, you or I, it's like, it's just strange to me how, and I'm just so tired that we got to get over that.
I mean, so let's stay here though, right? Because, y'all, we've been doing this work, right? And both of y'all have been doing this work for a long time. And I want to start with you, Dr. Fuller, because you've been called a lot of names in the book, except for a child of God as well. And I think that sometimes people don't really understand like the heat that comes with this. And I'm always curious as to why. So I what are some issues that you've run into, Doc?
Well, first thing is that I agree with one of the things that Jay said. Black people we're not a monolith. I mean, we got different ideas, we got different interests, we clearly have different classes. I mean, and so this notion that because we're all Black, we all need to think the same is ridiculous. But at the same time, I think it's very, very important for you to be clear about why you believe in something. And I'm the kind of person that if I believe in something, I'm gonna fight for it. And then what you say about it really don't matter to me. You can say whatever you want, but I have a clear understanding of why I'm fighting for what I'm fighting for. So one of the things, Charles, in this whole fight, because the major thing that people will say is you're against public education, right? That's the big banner that they hang out, using Saul Alinsky's notion of you decide what it is you want and you clothe it in moral garments. And the flip side of that, of course, is you try to make the other person seem immoral. So what the Randy Weingardens of the world try to do is to say that anybody who supports parent choice is against public education. And the reality of it is that public education is an idea. It's like we want the public to be educated. And then we created a system that was really based on a Prussian model, if you go back and understand the history of it. And then we say that system is public education. Well, what we have to clearly do is to make the distinction between the idea of public education and the system that was created to deliver it. So I'm a strong supporter of public education. I got issues with the system because I believe that since that system wasn't created by God, you could actually change it. And that if it doesn't work for large numbers of our children, it makes sense to try to come up with other ways to make sure that they get an education. And so, yeah, I've been called everything, but my view is that if ain't nobody calling you nothing, you ain't doing nothing, right? So if you decide you're gonna get out here and fight, then you got to be able to take the weight that's gonna come at you. And my whole thing is like, bring it. I mean, what am I supposed to fold up into a fetal position because y'all gonna call me names, or you gonna try? The other interesting thing about a lot of our people, man, is a lot of our people are really schizophrenic about white people. And let me explain what I mean. They don't figure that if you go into a room full of white people and you close the door, the assumption is you're going to be co-opted. How come people don't believe that you have the brains, you have the capacity to go into a room with your agenda? And why is it that they feel that you can't come out of that room with some of your agenda taken care of? Because if you're going to go into a room full of people to talk about anything, everybody in there got an agenda. The only people in there with no agenda are people who are stupid. Because it's all about power. It's all about how do I exercise power to get done what I'm trying to get done. And the point that I'm trying to make is that when people start saying, well, you've been bamboozled by the rich people, that's the other thing. Oh, you bought off by the Walton Family Foundation. My argument, man, is, hey, y'all know what? The only issue I got with the Walton Family Foundation is I ain't get enough money. I need more money to fight you fools. Because do you think that y'all getting money from somewhere? You know how black people get in a room and argue over whose white people's money is okay?
Right.
No, your white people's money is not okay. My white people's money is only idiots engage in those kind of arguments. We have to use whatever resources we can to try to move an agenda for our people. And you know that everybody who's got resources, they got an agenda. It isn't like they don't have an agenda, right? And you know that. Mm-hmm. You go into it understanding that, right? You go into it understanding that anytime you decide that you're going to fight for social justice in this country, if you're going to fight for 2 minutes, you're going to live in a sea of contradictions. Mm-hmm. So the struggle is, how do you negotiate those contradictions on behalf of our people? And so when I hear those names being called, when people call me names, Charles and Jay, as you all know, that don't move me, man. I don't really care, man. Well, I was younger, I don't care now.
Well, I want to bring Jay and Jay before we bring you in. People, we need your help. Again, because it's just us and independent, you can help us so much right now by liking and commenting and sharing, and not just pushing the share button, but like putting a message on as to why you're sharing it. Like that hiding stuff. That stuff is over, man. Yeah. That stuff is that time is dead and it's over. You know what I'm saying? And I just wanted to make sure that our community knew that we here stand up for you. And I want to hear Jay and the issues that she's running into, because I think all three of us have ran into some crazy issues and some crazy stuff. So Jay, the floor is yours.
Man, I mean, you're right. We all have run into crazy issues. I think the very first issue that really shocked me is, the difference between showing up when I have to, present my credentials of, having a master's degree from University of Southern California, as opposed to just showing up because I'm a concerned parent. And I deal with that not only, out in my community, but at work, right? Like, it's just the issues go across the board. I have been an advocate, I've been a lobbyist, I have been a facilitator across the board for educational equity. I specifically work for charter schools. I've also worked for some TRIO programs like Upward Bound, old school Upward Bound programs, because for me, it's always about what avenues are there available that are going to give underserved communities and marginalized communities options and more opportunities than the ones they currently have in front of them. So I agree with Dr. Fuller. It doesn't bother me that, people want to say that, we're getting money from the billionaires, or, that supporting charter schools or supporting school choice, you got to pick a side, and that's not a good side, or you selling out because, you talking to that white person or whatever. In fact, funny thing about it, in another life, I worked in corporate America, and I will tell you, white people with money, they are with bating breath, listening and wanting to know what they can do to help you a little bit more. I'm not trying to, ain't all white people bad. You know what I mean? It's a lot of folks out here that are really trying to support and help us. The difference though now is, what does that help look like? And so when we talk about getting money for these nonprofits and for these schools, I would like to see us move into an area where we're getting money and we're receiving, information as a resource, and not because you're trying to tell us what to do or manage how we do it. I think that time of parents specifically being pawns for, school voice and showing up when, some, well-fitted suit has told you we need your voice to testify at a hearing, or we need your voice on front of this news ad, yet you don't know, you're not educated yourself enough to know why they need your voice, and they're not paying you for that voice. That time is over, because the reality is that the issues that we face as Black parents every day are our authentic issues. If all the funders in the world decided tomorrow they were going to have a new hobby, or they were woke about some other issue besides racial injustice, we'd still be sitting here Black. We'd still be sitting here trying to demand and fight for what's best for ours and our kids. So with that in mind, that's, again, Charles, that's why we had this series about stop asking for permission. I don't need a nod from somebody else for them to tell me what I need to do in community. What I do need is resources. What I do need is funding. What I do need is for you to provide opportunities. And then what I need you to do is step aside and be an ally to me so that I can do what's best and say it in a way that it needs to be done. And I'm gonna make this last point, because we were talking about this recently. So you got like the breast cancer awareness, Susan G. Komen, right? When we look at how Blacks show up in education, if you look at like something like breast cancer awareness, think about how odd it would be if every time someone talked about breast cancer, it was a white man or a man in general. They were the spokesperson for breast cancer. Now, I know there is a small set of men that get breast cancer, but universally, it's seen as a woman's issue. Save the Tatas is my personal story. So why is it that when we talk about Black education, we have to have other leaders that don't look like us taking that mantle, other leaders that don't look like us getting funding to be able to tell that story, and then coming back into our communities and telling us how we should tell it, how we should write about it, what we should think about it? Like that's played. We don't need to do that. And so, that it's just old. And so that fires, I'm literally getting hot in my head now as I think about it, because in my experience, specifically in education, that's what I've been dealing with people who, want to tell me to go out and train these parents, but they're like, no, we don't want them to say that. No, they're going to say exactly what they need to say, because they're fighting for their babies. These are their babies.
And that's the thing. Me loving my kids and wanting them to have the best don't mean I hate whatever you choose to do for yours. Yep. I do not hate you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I went to Emory High. I went to Lafayette Elementary School, same school Huey Newton went. My parents went to Proviso East in Maywood on the west side, a west suburb of Chicago, the same place. It's a lot like that Doc Rivers went to, man. It's a lot of folks, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't hate those things, but I want to have an option. I'm leaving you on the front of the screen right now, though, Jay, because I got a question. How many babies you got, Jay?
I have three babies.
You got three.
Yes.
And Jay, just real quick, 1 through 3, how many hours of delivery did you have with those babies?
Okay, no, see, we're not gonna have that conversation.
Just to say, you push them things out. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. These are my babies. I'm the one that set up, with the strep throat every year and getting thrown up on and all that type of stuff. I'm the one who went through the labor pains. I know what you're trying to get to. You're right. I got agency to talk for my kids. You're right.
And again, because I'm not a parent yet, but when I look at Dr. Fuller and I look at you, Jay, and Dr. Fuller, I want you to chime in too. Like, what is it even? Can you even fathom somebody not from your community, not from your struggle, not from inside your house? You're not your wife or your husband, right? Telling you what you got to do with those kids that you're responsible for.
Yeah, I can fathom it because it happens every day. So the thing is, what's really interesting is that we're having this discussion because we lack power in America. There are two things operating here: race and power. Because people who got power, they ain't gotta have no show like this explaining why they're trying to get more power. Mm-hmm. They just get more power.
They walk in it, yeah.
We, on the other hand, have to be on here trying to explain to people why we want to have power over decisions about our lives. Mm-hmm. Or we got to explain why we're trying to get money. Look, do you think that any of these people who are getting all of this money from the federal government, just think about the people who are at the trial of the federal government getting billions of dollars. Trump and all of these crooks who are milking the federal government day after day after day for projects to build walls on the border. Just go through the list of things. We then gotta apologize for trying to get money to educate our children. We're crazy, man. We're like stupid. And they have us arguing with each other over $20 and they stealing billions. Yeah. And so not only do we have to stop asking for permission, like, is that Rose? Is that, we can't talk about that one, right? With your permission, we can't, that's a different thing. But anyway, okay. So what that is a different thing. No, but what I'm saying is we gotta quit apologizing for trying to get power, man.
Yes.
And so we just got to be clear that yes, we're trying to get power. One form of power is money. Another form of power is the ability to control elections and the political process. Mm-hmm. No race of people apologize more than Black people. We are the most apologetic people walking the face of the earth, man. Nobody else apologized for wanting to take control of their children's education.
Yeah, and we apologize because we do it to make other people feel comfortable with us. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, it's funny because I shout out to my folks from Philly, the parents from Philly that I'm doing a parent training with. I'm so proud because recently we did this whole we did a training on power mapping. And one of the things I asked was like, how comfortable are you with even the term power? And the great thing about it is a lot of them were like, oh, I'm very comfortable with it. Like, I don't have no problem with it. And we went through exactly what you just said, like the sources of power, that there, you know, the fact that there's people power, the fact that there is power in money, the fact there's power in status, how you show up. And that's what that's what unions have been doing forever, right? That you mentioned Saul Alinsky, like that is their model. The model is building an organizing cycle based off of how you do that stuff. But the reality is that no one has told us that. No one has told, parents haven't been given that playbook. You know, we didn't receive that memo. So it's interesting because you're right. Like it is about power. And it's also interesting because we have to, you know, like I said, this is why I'm laughing to myself because, you know, that the Black Panther movie, at one point when the mom is like, show them who you are. Like, I feel like that's how I am with my kids all the time. It's like, no, like someone was talking about, you know, oh, you know, your son shouldn't wear a hoodie. My son is brilliant. He's gorgeous. If he wants to wear a hoodie, if he wants to wear afro, whatever, like he's not going to dull his shine in order to make somebody else feel comfortable. You know, what I am doing now, though, is telling my kids, like, instead of being careful, be prepared, be ready, right? Because the stuff that's coming at you is stuff that other people are uncomfortable with. It's not your problem. You just need to know how to deal with it without feeling like you're going to lose yourself.
Yo, I mean, I'm so appreciative because, I mean, this kind of leads into some of the issues that I've faced because people keep talking to me about democracy. Like if you take money, so I want to break this down in a very contemporary way. Where I'm from, North Oakland, California, is like, there's this term called hustler. Now, if I can make somebody give me their money to do the things that I need to do, that tends to be looked at in a really good way from where I come from. But apparently now we are threats to democracy if you take billionaire money, even though that same Bloomberg billionaire guy who's spending, I don't know, 2 million, 20 million, whatever he is in Florida to get all those convicts out of jail so we can beat Trump. So the issue isn't about billionaire money. It's when the billionaire is doing the things with the money that you want them to do. So I'm like Dr. Fuller. I'm upset that you ain't gave me more. Give me more to do the things that I need to so you can get your tax write-off. Because that dude don't care nothing about me, right? But there are two people that y'all love to scream that y'all support, but as soon as we act in those ways, you got an issue. One is Malcolm X, who said, by any means necessary, right? By any means, like it didn't say by some means necessary, by your means necessary, by the means that the white people like necessary. He said by any means necessary. And oh, we also have somebody who was actually in the audience when he gave the famed Ballad of the Bullet speech. This man right here was there when he said it. Just if you want to say two words about that, I mean, because that's
oh no, I was sitting in Corey Methodist Church. It was either April 3rd or April 5th. I can remember 1964. I was in the balcony of Corey Methodist Church in Cleveland when Malcolm gave the ballot or the bullet speech. And just so you know, he opens up there by talking about Brother Lomax. And a lot of people think he was talking about the minister of the church. No, he was actually talking about Louis Lomax, because it was the debate between Louis Lomax and Malcolm X, because Louis Lomax had just written a book that was anti the Black Muslim movement at that time. And obviously Malcolm was a minister of the Nation of Islam. And I walked into that speech, and I've told people this many times, I said it in my book. I walked into that speech as one kind of Black man, and I left as another. That's why I know that speeches can be powerful, because that one speech by Malcolm X that I was sitting there changed my entire life, changed how I saw myself as a Black person. It was the power of his words and the way that he laid out is either going to be the ballot or the bullet. Yeah, I was sitting right there, man.
And let's hold that, right? So Malcolm X, ballot or the bullet. I know a lot of y'all like to quote Malcolm X and post the pictures and all that stuff, but so don't have nothing to say to me when I'm using by any means necessary. That's one. Two, I'm gonna use another one of your friends, Dr. Fuller, Derek Bell. Faces at the Bottom of the Well changed my life. I love that book, but there's a term that came out of him, and that's interest convergence. What that means is I don't need to be your best friend. What that means is no permanent enemies and no permanent friends. What that means is if you got something that I need to fight this war and I can use it, there's a convergence of interests. So I'm going to utilize that to get where we need to get to. Because if you recall, there was a brother by the name of Martin Luther King Jr. that had to spend time with a very racist president a lot of time to get some things passed through. But we ain't even go, we know more history lessons on that, right? So the only thing I want to say, but people keep saying we're attacking democracy. And I just want to show y'all both this real quick, because it really hurts my soul to like see it. And it really upsets me. They talk about democracy, right? This is my neighborhood that I grew up in. District 1 is North Oakland. Let me take this off the screen so you can all see exactly what I'm showing you. This is North Oakland. The blue is representing how many students are there, and the gray is how many voters. In the town that I grew up in, which used to be Black, white people have 79% of the vote, and they only got 24% of their kids in those schools. What that means is that there's a new contingency of people in Oakland, and a lot of them don't have kids, but a lot of them do, and they not sending their kids to go sit next to your Black ass kids. You understand? So when we talk about power, right? Tell me how I'm hurting democracy again. I thought it was supposed to be equal representation, right? They got 80% of the vote and 24% of the kids, whereas Black kids got a quarter of the students and 13% of the vote. And if you Latino, you got 23% of the kids in that district and 3% of the vote. So don't tell me when my parents come to me and they say, we need help, get us some money, get us some support. I don't want to hear you talk to me about democracy and, oh yeah, here's the other issue I got, and I'm gonna shut up because I know I can go, right?
Yeah, but that's good.
Stop talking to me about democracy like it's Jesus, man. Under democracy, I was a slave. Under democracy, I was 3/5 of a person. Under democracy, Black men get choked out in front of people, Black women get shot up, and nothing happens. I'm not saying that we need to take down democracy, but you keep talking to it, you keep bringing it back up to me like it's just been so good to me all the time. So there are some things, some complicated things that you got to deal with. So those are some of the issues, is that people will say, like, we don't have no agency, like we don't have no thoughts. You know what I'm saying? So just for the record, no billionaire called me. I called them, and I'm mad because I want some more bread. So let's just leave it at that, Jay. I'm gonna bring it back to you if you want to circle on that before our last topic. I'm sorry, I know I went off a little bit.
You know what? I'm just laughing at you right now because, Charles, we got 4 more times to do this, and we're just gonna have a woosah moment with you every time, where I'm just gonna need you to breathe. It's gonna be okay, and then we just gonna jump back in because you like you like a blowfish, just pop up, and you're like ready to go. Like, but I love it. It's how you should be, right?
Hey, find the lie in it though. You know what I'm saying? Find the lie, right? Like this. Right. This ain't my doctorate degree. This is the community. You know what I'm saying? Right. This don't belong to me. So I thank you for letting me have that moment.
I'm glad that you shared that the data information, right? Because that is so powerful, and it shows how, you know, the biggest thing that we need to get out of this series too is not just sitting here talking and having people listening to us, but actually finding opportunities for y'all to go out and be active and do stuff, right? So like as you were showing that, I was just thinking to myself, who's up for election? You know, when is the District 1 person termed out? What's coming up next? Like that's something we got to talk about another time. But like that's where we, you know, enlist that power, that status power, and start doing things where we start getting that agency, right? Where we don't have to keep asking, where now we are the person sitting in the position where we've got the votes. You know what I mean? Where we can switch that around. So that's good. I like this.
I love it. I love it. Well, I appreciate you. And that takes us into our last piece, right? Because we're here to serve and we're here to help. So what advice, Jay, do you have for other parents?
Right. So the first advice that I have is, you know, speak life into your parents. Into your children. And this is hard for me to share, but Charles, just like you, there was a point in my life where I was homeless. There's actually a book and there's a sermon that was written by Reverend Wright out of Chicago. It's actually the former pastor that the Obamas went to. The sermon was called "What Makes You So Strong, Black Man and Black Woman." And at a time when my mother and father and my sisters and my brother and I were at our lowest, we were homeless, living out of our car. My father would come to our car every night after panhandling in the streets, doing whatever he had to do to make sure we were safe. And let me say, the reason why we slept in our cars is because when you're in a shelter, they separate the men from the women. The women and the children can stay in one shelter, but the men have to stay in a different shelter. My father wasn't having that. But every night, he put on this tape, him and my mom put on this tape called "What Makes You So Strong, Man, Black." What makes you so strong that after
You breaking up, Jay?
400 years, you still keep building up.
Jay, you breaking up a little bit. It's all good. Stay with us. Can you hear me? So you left.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You left off at what makes you so strong. So pick it up from right there.
All right. So it's just about speaking life. What makes you so strong is a sermon from Reverend Wright. And it just talks about speaking life into your situation and yourself. Every night that we slept in that car, we had to wake up and you know, get dressed in the bathroom and go to school. And my mother told us we are better than our circumstances. We are brilliant. We were never told we were poor. We were never even allowed to say we were poor. It was a temporary situation. We got out of it. You know, by the grace of God, we were able to find better opportunities. My mother and father advanced in their careers, and we moved up a lot. But what was so different for me when I look at my experiences is that my parents have always spoken life into me. They've always told me to be my best. So that's what I tell my kids. Parents need to do that more. So we got to stop telling our kids what they can't do and what they're not going to be. We need to put agency in our children so that they can be the best they need to be, however they want to be it. Especially now when we see people like Jay-Z become billionaires because he was a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he started off rapping, but he's created a whole, you know, agency for himself. Like, it's about starting with building talents in our students and our kids. So I would say that first. The other thing is parents have to stop making excuses for not having the time, and we need to be involved in our communities. Charles, as you mentioned, there was a time where we took care of each other. We need to start being district wards representatives. We need to start running for local offices again and learning how to do that. It's important. It's how we survive. It's how we build community. So if I could say anything, I would say that. And I would also say stay tuned, because this isn't just about talking about it. It's about showing you how you can actually do that. And by the end of this series, that's what I hope we can accomplish, that we can give people tools and aspirations to know what's next for them.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's so beautiful. Dr. Fuller, what, you know, I know a lot of people want to hear from you. What advice do you have for parents?
Well, the first advice I have is we need to take care of ourselves during this pandemic. I mean, we need to be clear. 218,000 plus people have died in this country from this virus. And you got a fool who's in charge of the country, who's telling people, just send your kids back to school, just get out in the community. He just brought somebody onto this task force who's taken the position that we need to go for herd immunity. And what that implies is everybody should just get back out there. And the only way, even if this works, is over 200 million people would have to get the virus. And if 1% of those people died, that would be 2 million people. And who do you think a lot of those people are going to be? So to me, right now, the first advice that we got to give to our parents and to our community is we're going to have to do the things to take care of ourselves. Because what has happened is before this pandemic, a lot of the parents out there were considered low-wage workers. Now what they're considered is essential workers, because white people have changed the terminology to say you are now essential. So they're going to send you out there to risk your life so that all the rest of us can be on Zoom. Now, they don't call you essential, but they ain't changed your wages. They ain't giving you more money. They're not giving you better benefits. So what I'm saying, Charles, is right now, and I know this, we're supposed to be talking about education, but it's hard for you to be educated if you dead. And so one of the things that we have to do is we have to prioritize what is the most important thing we have to do for our children today, right now, is to protect them. And it is to protect ourselves. And then the second thing then becomes the question of education, right? For me, there's a priority here, right? And so while in general, everything that Jay said, everything you said, obviously I agree with. But what I'm saying is that this particular moment in history, Black people have to prioritize Black lives, because it's not only that the pandemic is killing us, the state is killing us, and then to a certain extent, because of the inhumane conditions that we're forced to live under, we're killing each other. And so we have a moment in history where the term Black Lives Matter is one of the most critical things to say to each other, because it's real. It's real, man. And so we got to make sure our children internalize that, not as a slogan, but as a fact that how precious their lives are. And because their lives are so precious, you not only want them to live, you want them to do what Paulo Freire said, be able to engage in the practice of freedom. And for the vast majority of our children, the only way for them to engage in the practice of freedom, which means the transformation of their world, is that they have to get an education. And so whatever it is that we have to do to ensure that they live and that they get an education, that's our responsibility, not just as parents, but as grandparents, as aunts, as uncles, as cousins. And even if you don't have no children, they're your children because they belong to us. These are our children. So that's what I would say.
Man, I think that's beautiful, man. And, Dr. Fuller, we just so grateful to have you, man. And I know you got a thing for Gladys Knight, man. So I just make sure that there's a little bit of Gladys for you.
Man.
And I can't play too much because YouTube will ban me, but I give you a little taste just for you, man. He loves Gladys Knight.
I do love Gladys, man.
Here's my advice for parents, right? Is that the time, like, I know there's a lot of folks that's focusing on putting on, like, look, I'm just gonna focus, I'm gonna do the work, a lot of, all that good stuff, man. But right now, they coming after your kid's school. They coming after it. Even if it's good, they coming after it. You know what I mean? And I think that's like, but a parent's voice is so powerful. And don't let these people try to change how you speak. Don't let them tell you how to speak. No. We're not doing that censorship stuff, man. We're not gonna play that game. And I would just say this: our Black moms have been out there on those front lines and being disrespected and being talked over and being talked down to. And I would just say this to my Black dads, man: you showing up and standing behind them and next to them, it matters, yo. It's something different, man. It's something different that happens when those things, you know what I mean? Like, when Black dads and Black moms, even when it's like a Black dad from over here and a Black mom from over here, like, they listen differently. Don't give your power away. You know what I'm saying? Don't let them have it. That's why they try to take it away from you. More powerful than you think, you know? And the way I got out of the situation I was in, man, I call it victory or Valhalla. Valhalla, for those that don't know, man, it's the mythical place that soldiers go when they die in battle. So my thing was, I'm either gonna get out of this poverty and out of this life and the things that I'm seeing in this crack infested world, you know what I'm saying, or visiting people in jail or losing friends while I'm a kid and all that stuff, or I'm gonna die trying to get out. You know what I'm saying? And like, so what do I look like right now being afraid of somebody having something to say on Facebook? Like, what do I look like being afraid when my ancestors, y'all know how y'all always talking about, I ain't my ancestors, you'll catch these hands, you'll do this, that, and the third. We had ancestors that stood at those counters, man, and got hit and spit on and slapped and all kind and just denigrated, man. You know what I'm saying? Right. What do we look like not speaking up because we don't want to get a nasty DM? Like, it don't even make sense. It don't even make sense. Like, this is a history book that's being written right now. And what's the story that you're going to get to tell your great grandkids about what did mommy and daddy do when they came from my kids? You know what I'm saying? So that's my piece. It's thinking about your legacy, knowing that you're more powerful than you think. And these people ain't going to do a damn thing to you. Me and my dad don't have the closest relationship. I respect them. We good, right? But when I was a young social worker, this is the best advice he ever gave me. I was nervous about something. And it was I was a social worker and I was like one of the youngest ones and I was the black one and all that stuff. And he was like, what's going on? And I told him, he was like, well, is anybody going to beat your ass? And this is my dad. That's where he's from. He's a Chicago dude. You know what I'm saying? He lived in Argo and Maywood and all this stuff. And I said, well, no. He said, well, what you worried about? People, we talking about the future of your kids and ain't nobody about to put their hands on you. The worst is that they're going to make a hashtag. And they don't want to see you in their face. You know what I'm saying? And so for my people that's in traditional schools, I love you too. And I'll stand with you and I'll fight with you. We're in this fight together. But parents, now is the time. And JR This Right is helping lead us into that space. So just before we go, I need y'all to know that you should go to jrthisright.com. And you should do that because this sister, you know what I'm saying, just like many black women, you know what I'm saying, like does more than just talk. She got a whole business. And at Energy Converters, we definitely will be finding a way to use her. Her services are political strategy coaching, leadership development, fundraising. We just talked about getting that bread, strategic communication, project management, curriculum development. I mean, she's brilliant. She's brilliant. And for so long, she's been in the back, but we're not doing that no more. And Jay, any way that I can help you, that Dr. Fuller can help you, we're going to be here. The way y'all can help us to share this, we're doing 5 sessions, all right? We're doing 5. We need you to tell your people and come back and be with us next time and bring your wine. Jay told me I need to have wine. Damn it, I got wine. And,
yes, it's Friday.
I've been drinking it the whole time. So Jay, why don't let's give Dr. Fuller his final thought before Jay, you take us home.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to thank both of you all for having me on. You know, both of you know you're 2 of my most favorite people in the world. I'm glad to see Jay getting out there, doing this thing and putting her ideas out there. And Charles, man, you know, I got to give you all of the credit, man, for using your talent and skills to make this happen. And so, again, I just thank both of you. I love both of you. And hey, man, the struggle is real out here in the field. And it's been that way ever since they ripped us off from the continent and deposited us on this side of the world. And this fight against racism, this fight for our identity, this fight for us to be empowered, this fight for us to exercise power is going to go on and on and on and on. And I'm just so grateful that we have 2 people like you who picked up this mantle of struggle and are going to continue to push it forward.
Man, you just the king, brother. We appreciate you, man. I'm gonna say my final thing before Jay takes us home. Just in closing today, you know, there's a fund that I have called the People's Literacy Fund, in the same vein of the Black Panthers, where we're reaching out to our community around ideas they may have around fixing literacy. We're giving out $100,000 in mini grants up to $5,000, and we just went through our first round, and it was people in the community, and they reminded me of my mama and my daddy, and like when I was like really messed up, man, and nobody asked them how they was doing this stuff, and these people just don't. They starting to recognize and feel their power. And right after we got off, I was emotional during the round, and I was shaking. And I cried. I just cried for like 5 minutes when I got off that call, right, around being able to do that. Because the toughest thing the hardest thing that we gonna do at all is helping you realize that you powerful. That's the toughest, making somebody believe. They said, listen, when you train, if you train them hard enough, you ain't got to tell Negroes to go to the back. They'll go there by themselves, right? Like they'll do it on their own. And I want to just change that narrative. So hopefully this is helpful to somebody else. I lead with love, but I ain't no sucker either. So, you know, step accordingly. So Jay, we're so proud of you. And we love you. We both love you. And we're going to give you the screen to take us out however you want to do it, because this is your space.
What? Y'all said all those, y'all dropped all those gems, and I'm supposed to come up and follow that? Really, Dr. Fuller? You know, only thing I can say is just repeating what has already been said. Black people, you are feared because you are powerful, because you are stronger than what you have been told and what you realize. And specifically for parents, it is about family. It is about establishing a network, however it looks like. It doesn't have to be the traditional view. It doesn't have to be gender norms. It's about having a community of people that are going to lift you up and amplify you. And I'm just so blessed to have a community of people like Dr. Cole and Dr. Fuller to lift me up in a space where I've been quiet for too long. I am ready to yell to the top of my lungs, and I'm not going to do it alone. I want to bring all of the parents and all the power that I have witnessed and I have experienced and I've heard from my experience, from my years in this world, to the forefront. So I just welcome you guys. Like Charles said, please share the wealth, spread the word. Join us again here next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific, 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. We've got more to come. We're going to talk about that pack that Charles is organizing. We're going to talk about just agency to not feel beholden to a job per se, and creating opportunities for you to create wealth and extra income for yourself, and just continue to lift up why we are powerful and why we need to step into this place where we are not asking permission, but we are gaining agency over what we do, and doing it with all the pride and all the power that we have within us. So thank you.
Y'all have an amazing day, and we are out.